For today's panel, the Inside Scoop, networking tips for recruiters. We'll get started in a few minutes as more students will be joining. Um, yeah, so thank you everyone for coming. We'll get started in about maybe around 12:03. So. Everyone, thank you so much for joining today's panel on networking tips from recruiters for spring 2026. My name is Dawn DeCilo, and I am a career engagement graduate intern here at the USC Career Center. Today we have two employers. We have Randall from City Year and Karen from Enterprise. They'll be answering questions on tips and strategies on networking from a recruiter's perspective. Before we get started with the questions, if I could have the both of you introduce yourself, what your name, role, and company you currently work for. And so we can start off with Randall.
Sure. Thank you so much, and great to be with you all. Once again, my name is Randall McCoy, and I'm a City Year recruitment manager. City Year is part of the AmeriCorps National Service Program, which gives young people opportunity throughout the country to work on different service projects, whether through education, health, economic development. City Year is its main educational opportunity, and I head recruitment for the program here in Los Angeles. So great to be with you. And I also sit on campus here at USC as the main point of contact for the program.
Hi,
Awesome.
everybody. Hi, everybody. My name is Karen. I'm a talent acquisition manager for Enterprise Mobility, which operates Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise Mobility is just the corporation, but primarily I work specifically just for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I hire for our entry-level sales position, and I oversee all of the LA Metro region.
Great. Thank you both for sharing. Before we do get started, if you do have questions, you can write those in the chat, and then Liz, our internship programs advisor, will be happy to answer any questions if even during this panel as well. But our first question here is that we always tell our students to emphasize networking, especially through finding jobs and internships. Can you share an example of how networking was utilized with students who have hired?
Sure. I have a great example of intern that I just hired that I met on campus. And she came up really first and foremost, she attended the career center or career fair, right, which is really huge. And she came up, she had her elevator pitch ready, she had really great energy, she had her resume ready. And then we exchanged information. She asked for my business card. We connected on LinkedIn, and then she followed up right after I sent kind of like a mass email to everybody that left me their information, and she followed up. She went through the whole interview process and was offered a spring internship. But I think a big part of it that probably wouldn't have happened if she wouldn't have followed up, connected with me on LinkedIn, showed a lot of interest, told me about herself, had her elevator pitch ready. So she made a really great first impression.
Awesome. And just to add a little bit to that, I feel that if just as a foundation, networking is certainly not about asking for a job per se, but it is that relationship building component to it. So, uh, Karen mentioned the follow up. Top of the line A rated way to let a recruiter know that you actually really, really are interested in the role. But I also think referrals are big. So, for example, with City Year, when we have core members, a lot of times they'll say, hey, I got a friend that you should keep in mind. I would love for you guys to get connected. A lot of connections and a lot of jobs get done by just someone referring you to a person. So always look out for that. Always kind of, if you notice that someone's in a position that you want to get into, always kind of mention the whole referral process because if someone wants to put your name out there, they know that, okay, this is coming from a person that they value. And so that referral can go a long way as well.
Awesome. Thank you both for your answers. And the next question we have here is, what strategies do you tell students if they want to start networking, but do not know where to start?
Would say real I think attending like so like a career fair or like something like this, right? Like a professional development like workshop. I think is a great place to start. Because you again you're exposed to a lot of, different recruiters and like here we're giving advice on that. So I think getting involved, in somewhere in like a professional development course or through the career center, anything like that, I think is a really, really great first step.
Yeah, and to add a little bit to that, to kind of address the elephant in the room sometime with our generation, and we're all a little guilty of it, just feeling a little uncomfortable with the social aspect of networking. But it does go a long way. So I wouldn't even encourage you to focus on sending a cold email to, for example, a CEO of a company that you're interested in. Not that it can't go anywhere, but networking to truly be successful at it, there is that social aspect to it. So it's not about coming out of your shell and not being who you are authentically. And I don't want this to sound hyperbole, like, oh, just be yourself, but it does go a long way. And it's more about just being able to open up a little bit more socially in your own way. So not trying to put on something that you're not necessarily selling yourself. But despite the uncomfortability, maybe just starting to practice being a little bit more open in conversations when you do meet someone, but you are showing up exactly as you are. Because what I've come to realize is if you do try to attempt to be what you're not, sometimes you're not connecting with the right people. You're just kind of putting out what you think they want to hear, but show up authentically, practice it because it is a muscle that, especially with COVID, a lot of us are not really as social as we used to be. And I think we're all guilty of that. But just putting in that effort to be a little bit more um, open to being social and communicating from your authentic self goes a long way than just a cold email or outreach online, right? So that's something I would look into as well for all of us to do as we network.
Awesome. Thank you again. To follow up with that question, what are recommendations of places where students should start networking, maybe at USC or even outside of USC or beyond?
Yeah, I think 100% on campus, and getting involved in clubs, organizations, again, attending things like this, joining for fraternity sororities, anything like that, any kind of club, or even outside of school, if you're part of your church or part of, and, even sports. I think sports, can teach you so much, teamwork and, camaraderie and, overcoming objectives. But I think on campus, joining clubs, joining any kind of organization, even if, say, even as a freshman, you didn't do it, say it's your last year or senior, it's never too late to get involved because then you can kind of bounce ideas off each other. Again, attend professional development courses, resume writing courses, anything like that. I think it's never too late to get involved, and that's also a really great thing to add to your resume because it shows leadership. It shows that you got out and you got involved. And that's something that recruiters want to know that you're able to work well with others.
Yeah, I agree. And I would throw in handshake. I think it's underutilized quite a bit, especially in the college space. But recruiters are literally there just to talk to you. It's like I know from my point of view, like our little DM system, I would say, more so than LinkedIn or somewhere else. Handshake is a lot less intense. You can just start a conversation. You can open up there with a recruiter, and I know for me, we're always checking it, always ready to respond, but the conversations are a little bit more organic and conversational, then you're feeling a little intimidated. Do you have to come across professional and, LinkedIn settings? Handshake is something I think all of you guys should look into a little bit more as far as just sending out a message to someone or a company you're interested in pursuing.
Yeah, those are great recommendations. Thank you again. Um, my next question I have here is when attending networking events or coffee chats, what questions do you recommend students should ask?
I think definitely keep it professional, right? And depending on who you're speaking to, but I think it's like if you're talking to a recruiter or anyone, that's representing an organization, I think it's great to ask about, them and their career path, right? Where did they start? Where they went to school? What was their major? And why did they join the company that they joined? Why have they stayed as long as they've stayed? What's some advice, that they have, if they're applying to their organization, or what do they look for? In a candidate. And hopefully then that'll kind of get the conversation going. And then they'll ask some questions like about you as well. So also I would say be ready to talk about yourself as well and your career path or maybe what kind of career path you'd like to get into. But I think learning about them, their industry, their company, their organization, that's what's going to keep a conversation going. Like the better, questions you have, the more questions you have, like the better the conversation will go.
Totally gonna second that. I just feel like the best questions are gonna show curiosity from your perspective. So, um, it's like you kill two birds with one stone by kind of putting it on them. In other words, you keeping in mind the word you. So, what is something you wish that you would have known in this role before you started, or how did you end up in this career? So, kind of putting it on them first, more so than yourself where you're emphasizing, okay, I would love to get some value from you as the recruiter. And in turn, they're going to give you back value. So just kind of leading with asking them about them as well and how they ended up in that position and what do they look for and what skills are they seeing that set candidates apart. Questions like that, I think, are great. But for the recruiter to see that curiosity from you goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bo. I definitely agree of asking questions, being curious, and to follow up, for in like the recruiter perspective is what do you like to know about the students when meeting with them? Like what questions would you ask them? Like what do you like to know about them?
I would definitely like to know kind of a little bit about their interests, right? What kind of environment, kind of culture do they want to be a part of, and see if we're a good match. I'm in sales, right, and I recruit for entry level sales. So if you want to be a professor, a teacher, or whatnot, maybe in education, maybe we're not the best fit. But I would like to, not to say, you can't make that pivot or whatnot. I just maybe would not want to know a little bit more about your background or maybe where you've worked, or again, what clubs or organizations have you been a part of? When do you graduate? Write your qualifications. But mainly, yeah, what are you interested in? What have you been a part of? And kind of where do you see yourself in a year or 2 years? Or again, what kind of culture or company do you want to be a part of?
Love that because as I'm speaking to a candidate, I'm really trying to understand what drives them, what experiences have actually shaped them. So somehow trying to get that information from them get is very helpful to me as a recruiter. So what volunteer work have you done? What student organizations are you a part of? What life experience just in general have you had? Because I start to form a opinion about your own passion and what drives you and where you want to go. So those are the pointed questions I try to get very early in a conversation with a candidate, whether at a fair or online or on the phone, is I'm trying to understand really what their passion is, what allows them to wake up in the morning and it's something that they want to do. Doesn't matter what time of the day, like this is what drives them. Because then you kind of understand where they really want to go and you can kind of be a little bit more intentional with trying to help them to get there, right? So um I don't keep it that general, say what's your passion, but hey, what organizations have you worked for? What's been your life experiences? What student organizations are you a part of?
Yeah, that's awesome insights. Thank you both for sharing. And my next question I have is, What approaches are helpful for networking if the person is meeting you for the first time?
I would say, well, first impressions still matter. I definitely, first impressions, are very, very important, whether it's virtual or it's in person. So I think, again, having your elevator pitch ready, right? Or doesn't have to be, so robotic, but be ready to talk about yourself. I think like a strong handshake, good eye contact, smiling, right? You want your personality to come through too, kind of how Randall was talking about, right? We want to get to know you, what your passions are. And there's no right or wrong answer. I think all recruiters are looking for something a little bit different. But ultimately, we want to know, that you can have a conversation, you can carry a conversation. Again, you can work with others. But I think be ready to talk about yourself. And again, remember if you're going to again, like a career fair or anything, where, recruiters will be there, I would say, have your resume ready, dress maybe business casual, and just be ready to talk about yourself and kind of what you're looking for.
Totally second that. And just to add a little extra to it, I think just being present, like we can sense that as a recruiter as we start to see you approach us at the table or, we're at a specific event. So as you're approaching, maybe just put the phone away a little bit, kind of make that eye contact, even though I know it sometimes could be a little uncomfortable. Again, these are muscles we all have to work on socially. But I know that a recruiter can kind of sense if you're truly engaged or you're kind of just casually talking and you're looking over there and over there. So just practicing being present in the moment, what that looks like for you. And some of that is just the simple things, putting the phone away a little bit, making eye contact, showing that recruiter that you're actually present in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Will, again. I definitely agree with, making eye contact, being present. Um, my next question I have for you here is, if students are, going to a career fair or maybe going to an event and they meet a recruiter and they would like to follow up with them. So if a student is interested in staying in touch with a recruiter after meeting with them, what can they do to follow up?
I would say first, maybe ask the recruiter, like, hey, would you like me to email you, LinkedIn, or Handshake? Because a lot of different recruiters have different forms of communication, and different platforms that they use. Like for me, email would be the best way. But I think asking them like, how can I follow up? But most recruiters, if they get your information, it's usually like a QR code, a sign up sheet, something, and they're going to follow up with you and send you an email like, thank you so much for attending. These are our, open positions. This is my LinkedIn. And I would say reply to that email, right? Check your spam and your junk folder. A lot of the times it'll go there because we do it through our applicant tracking system, at least Enterprise does. So, you want to respond to that email. You want to follow directions. If it says on there, like, hey, these are our listings, apply, and within 3 to 5 days, somebody will be in contact with you. But then I get an email saying like, "Oh, here's my resume. Let me know what I should do next." Like, well, I sent you an email like with the positions that were listed. The first step, again, for a lot of companies, is going to be the application because that's a legal document. You're not an applicant until you apply. So you want to do, exactly what you're instructed to do. You want to look at the email and really see, a lot of these emails are going to tell you exactly what you have to do next. So follow up, do, what the recruiter's asking of you that you need to do. And again, if you don't hear from a recruiter right away, we get a lot of emails. We're talking to a lot of people. So I would say wait, maybe 3 to 5 days and then follow up.
Yeah, great advice. And I would say when you are following up, try your best not to be generic. So attempting to something in the conversation that you remembered, like putting that into the email or putting that into the follow-up, I feel goes a long way. It shows some intense, that you're very intentional and passionate about that role. So just think about something from that conversation, even as you're leaving and you jot it down in your notes. I just know that when I follow up, I'm not going to be generic. I'm going to reference something that we spoke about or something important, something specific. It just shows that extra uh, intent for the position and the role that you're interested in. So, not a generic follow up, something a little bit more specific.
Hmm.
Conversations.
Yeah, thank you. Another question I have here, you mentioned different platforms of where recruiters are at. One of the most common questions we get from students is it okay to reach out to a recruiter on LinkedIn? Um, I want to hear directly from each of you how you feel about a student reaching out on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great, especially if we met like on campus, we met in the classroom, or we met at a fair or at a workshop. Yeah, 100%. And I would say like, yeah, try to be like a specific, like if it was, a certain fair or a certain professor's, classroom, definitely reference that because we meet so many people. But yeah, 100%. I think you definitely should.
Definitely, and just be open to the other mediums as well, because as Karen mentioned earlier, some people use other mediums more than others, even recruiters. Some use LinkedIn more than others. So I think just being open to all the mediums. Don't forget Handshake as well. And LinkedIn, we're always open to any form of communication because we are interested in you. But I think and we referenced it earlier. Just know if it takes a little bit of time, we're getting a lot of messages, we got a lot of DMs, we have a lot of people reaching out. So maybe another medium in addition to LinkedIn can help you get some responses quicker as well. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Bo. We have two more questions in our panel, and if anyone has any questions for Karen or Randall, please put them in the Q&A section. We'll answer those after we have our panel questions. But my next question I have here is can the both of you share any events you have coming up for students to attend? So if there's any events for Enterprise or any events for City Year, feel free to share them.
Yes, so I'll be at the recent grads and students virtual fair for USC. I'll have a instead of one-on-ones, I do a group info session. So that'll be on the 16th at 11. And then we also have our Level Up series, which is our career professional development series. We're doing how to write an outstanding resume. That's on the 24th of April. And then I'll also host another info session that I'll post on Handshake. It's not posted yet, but it'll be May 8th for an info session on our company and all the current openings that we have.
Awesome. And I'll definitely be at the virtual fair on the 16th. I'm usually trying to be at all campus events that are listed. Usually try to be at all of them. But in addition to that, anytime I'm doing an informational session, I'll put that on Handshake so that that's seen. So I'm always trying to be visible on Handshake. But I do know the next official event will be the 16th, the virtual career fair. I'll be a part of that.
Awesome. And our last question that we have here for the panel before we get into the student Q&A is, how can students connect with you if they are interested in meeting with you for a coffee chat or informational interview?
Yeah, for me, yeah, on Handshake, you can message me on Handshake, on LinkedIn. You can email me. Again, email is probably the best way. I'm very responsive through email. But also on Handshake, also on LinkedIn. Any one of those three would be great.
Awesome. And as for me, I do have an interest form that puts you directly into our AmeriCorps database and it goes directly to me. I could share that before the end of our session. Just ask your basic name, email and number, school, and it goes directly to me and I'll have your profile all set up that we can always consistently communicate. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you both for your answers. That concludes our panel Q&A. And now we have our student Q&A. So if you do have questions, please put them under the Q&A section. We do have we have three questions right now. And so our first question that we have here is, how different is it to talk to a recruiter than talk to an employee from a specific team that I'm interested in? To be more specific, recruiters may not know. Um, for example, the tech aspects I'm interested in. In this case, how should I say when talking to the recruiter? Oh. This one's
More different to talk to a recruiter than to talk to an employee. Um, so I would say, because yeah, I have this issue sometimes too that again I hire just for sales, but we also have an IT tech side, but it's out of St. Louis, Missouri. There's no entry level positions. You have to have like 10 years of experience, right? What I do is I direct our anyone interested in that who would qualify directly to our career website. And because again, I those positions, I don't live in St. Louis. I'm locally here in LA. I don't know anybody in St. Louis, and again, I've never hired for software engineer or anything like that. So I would say just to go directly, like for us, go directly to the website. And then on our website, you actually know who the recruiter will be, and our contact information is on there. So, not like if you are interested in a sales position in, Brentwood, Hollywood, or West LA, whatever it may be, West LA, you're going to see my face and my email on there. So for us, same thing. It's the same for those IT tech positions. The recruiter, the person responsible for that job, their information will be on there, and then you can reach out to them directly through there. But I would say definitely like ask like if they do know anybody, is there anybody that you could connect me with? If not, how do you think I should go about it? I think that would be probably the best way. At least that's the advice that I give when students are looking for more of those like IT tech positions.
And as far as the city or AmeriCorps world, as far as where I sit in recruitment, we're very interconnected because we are a national program. So even though I sit as head of recruitment here in Los Angeles, we have head of recruitments in Boston, Miami, New York, DC, you name it. We're in all the major cities across the country, but we're very interconnected, meaning we're always communicating. So me as a recruitment head here in LA, I know all of the recruiters across the country. But in addition to that, we're connected with the admissions team. And so we know who sits in different admissions processes throughout the country. So we're in constant communication. So, for example, you don't want to do a specific role that I'm recruiting for, but you're interested in IT. For our business process, it would be me referring you and connecting you and breaking the ice and somehow connecting you with that point person, even though they're in a whole different department than my own. So, as a recruiter, we kind of are in a little bit of everything in the business process as it relates to city or AmeriCorps type of work. And yes, we have so many different departments, but again, we all tend to communicate within that funnel with each other. So if you see something within our particular organization, a recruiter can go a long way as far as getting you connected to the right person.
Thank you. Our next question we have here is, do you have any tips on how to find events to network with recruiters outside of campus events?
Outside of campus, I'm going to say that's probably going to be a little bit tough. Again, I can only speak for myself, but outside of campus, I would, well, again, on Handshake, LinkedIn, email, visiting our website directly. But at least for myself, I'm evaluated on what I do on campus, right? And how many prospects or candidates I talk to, and how many people I recruit from certain universities. So your best bet will be, on campus, but also doing like virtual things like this. If you graduate and you no longer, maybe live in the same area, or you don't want to go on campus or whatever it may be, you can also follow up again through Handshake and LinkedIn and search for jobs on LinkedIn. Also visiting again like the website, our company website. Most recruiters they don't let just candidates sit in a bucket. At least we don't. You'll hear from us one way or another. But I will say again, I can only speak for myself, but for campus is a very, very big place to recruit, and that's going to be the best place for you to network with recruiters.
Yeah, I agree. And to add a little bit as far as AmeriCorps world, um, it goes back to what I said earlier about the interconnection. So we are very interconnected with Peace Corps. So Peace Corps gives young people the opportunity to work on service projects overseas throughout the world, economic development, health, education, you name it. AmeriCorps, the only difference is you serve in one of the 50 states, including Hawaii. So again, we do things together. We're very connected. So if in the future you're interested in core type of service work, whether Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, City Year is a part of AmeriCorps, um, there's always that funnel to kind of send you to the right place that you need to go. Whether I'm a recruiter for Peace Corps, I'm a recruiter for AmeriCorps, we're all kind of in the same family. And so networking tends to, I would say, overlap in so many ways. There's times that I'm doing an event with a Peace Corps recruiter that has nothing to do with USC. Even though I sit as a recruiter at USC, they may not even have a school or they may be connected with a different school, but we'll get together and we'll do a networking event. So if peradventure in the future you are interested in the Corps, whether Peace Corps or AmeriCorps, it's all somewhat of the same family, service-oriented work.
Thank you, Bo. Our next question that we have here is, what do you look for in applicants, or what stands out to you?
For me, it's going to be the qualifications. First and foremost, do you qualify? And for us, we require a bachelor's degree and a year of customer service or sales experience. That's going to be the first thing that I look for. And then I'm going to look at the experience, right? I'm going to look at your resume, right? Your resume is almost like your first impression. And I'm sure you've heard that recruiters spend like 9 seconds on a resume, and it definitely holds true. But when resume catches my eye and I stay on it longer, it's because I see that you qualify and I see that your resume matches with the job description. So I recommend for you to have a resume, have like 5, 6 different resumes because you're going to be applying to different industries, right? Unless it's something very, very niche and something that you don't want to waver on or very specific, then great. But you should have a few different resumes. And that's the first thing. I don't need it to be a colorful resume. I don't need it pictures and one page chronological order, black and white. Like it's boring, but that's what we look for just for that you qualify. And if you don't qualify for the position, I would recommend for you to not apply for it because like if anything, it shows that you can't follow instructions. Like this is exactly what I'm looking for, and you still apply. It's not a good look. So that's first and foremost. You have to qualify. I look at the position, or I look at your past experience, and then that's when I make a decision if I'll reach out to, or if I want to know more. But again, first and foremost, I suggest like you want to make sure that you qualify for the position because if you don't, again, in 2 seconds, if I see you don't have a bachelor's degree, you don't have a year of customer facing experience, and it's, on to the next resume.
I'm smiling a little bit because it's like recruiters tend to cringe and really get angry when they know that okay, the qualifications was kind of put out there. And so what Karen is saying right now, everybody, if you take that to heart in your future, you can go a long way because I don't know, it's like a big pet peeve for recruiters when they know that the qualifications are put out there and you don't do it. But that said, great opportunity for me to say AmeriCorps in general and City Year main requirement is that you are a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident. So that's kind of the big one. City Year does have an age limit, 17 to 25, but most AmeriCorps programs do not. So that said, once you kind of set the foundation that you have those qualifications, to be honest, AmeriCorps service is really looking for your passion because what they want to do is give you these service opportunities to actually build up your resume, build up your professional development, build up your skills. So, not that they're just going to accept anyone, it is highly competitive, but they're really looking for your passion, your desire to make impact, your commitment to really serving others, your intercultural experiences. That's big. So a part of the whole application process is them trying to gauge, are you able to work with people that come from a whole different culture than yourself? Are you able to deal with people that have a whole different belief system? They're really trying to build up the skills for you to be a humanitarian and really serve in any capacity, whether business, entrepreneurship, stay involved in education. the whole goal of AmeriCorps service is to really build up the skills as you move forward in your career. So not a lot of qualifications, like even for city year, even though you're going to be in the schools and serving um, and supporting academically, you don't have to have a math degree and courses taken in science because they do train you, they do give you the skills and the professional development before you start your year of service. But they're really looking for people that have the heart to do this type of work. And again, if you decide to ever get involved in service-oriented work or the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, there is a lot of training and professional development that goes on throughout your service year to get you to the next level in your career.
Thank you, Bo. Our next question we have here is what are the best ways to navigate the current job market? I tend to apply for jobs and not hear back. Would it be better to apply and then message the hiring manager directly?
I would say the best way to navigate because or employee referrals. Like if you're a referral or you know somebody, because that's again, yes, the job market right now is it is really tough. And from what I'm hearing from other recruiters and candidates and people who are in charge of hiring managers, it's who do you know? It's going to be your referral. It's going to be if we met you on campus, that we know a little bit about you. Unfortunately, that's just the state of the job market right now. But just even with other colleagues, other recruiters I know, other friends and family that work in recruiting and headhunting, it's going to be, um, who do you know and who do you know from as an employer referral, you went to college with somebody. So it's really important that you again, this whole networking piece, and again, attending, say you apply to City or to Enterprise, and you end up talking to Randall or I or another recruiter, you can say, "Oh, I attended, a professional development virtual networking shop, and I heard Karen speak." Like that. So that shows that you know a little bit about our organization. You took the time. You were interested. You were curious. But unfortunately, from what I'm hearing and what I've seen, the best way for you to land a position will be, um, with best way is going to be who do you know, right? Who do you know that works here? Who told you about this position? How did you find out about this role? And you definitely can if you apply, you definitely can then message the hiring manager, right? Maybe on LinkedIn. But I would say you need to make it specific. Like it needs not just like, hey, I just like I get this sometimes too. Hi, I just applied. Let me know what next steps are. Like, okay, well. But if you say I met you, on campus, or I met you on, Inside Scoop, and what you said was really intriguing. I'd love to know more about the position. Here I just applied. When would you be free for a discussion? Thanks so much. Whatever it may be. If you can make it as personal as possible, and again, loop it back to that, you heard us speak on Inside Scoop. You went to a fair. You went to any kind of workshop, or oh, you spoke to in my classroom and last spring. Anything like that is 100% going to help you.
Yeah. Um, she hit the nail on the pin, everyone. I'm just gonna kind of second that. No hyperbole on that, but that really is what it is, and that really is what's gonna separate you. It's not gonna necessarily be the resume, it is gonna be the relationships. And so whatever is gonna allow you to cultivate that, grow that, allow to, water that, allow that to grow, that's really the way to go. I would add in a little bit of opportunities that allow you to do that. So, for example, again, in my field, service oriented type of work, volunteer type of work gets you exposed to experiences and people and networks as you plan your next move. So, um, for example, my journey really was doing AmeriCorps service in Washington, D.C. I'm originally from Jersey, moved to Washington, D.C. to do AmeriCorps service. And during that year in D.C., the amount of connections, the amount of networks, the amount of events that I could attend while doing my volunteer year is what really got me to the next level. So it was at that point I'm getting my resume around, I'm getting advice on how to tailor it, how to sharpen it. But then I knew at that moment I really wanted to work for the United Nations. Like I was like, okay, I'm so interested in this world. Um, And it was at that moment I was able to attend events and get around people within the UN system in DC, get my resume to the right person. Once I was done with my year of service, I used that alumni network to get my internship, and boom, I had the opportunity to work with the United Nations for about 9 years before I took on this position. So, what is going to allow you? What's the environment that's going to allow you to network, get connected, build relationships? Is going to just put you ahead of the game rather than just submitting that resume, getting that resume out. Where's the relationship component? Karen mentioned, oh, I saw you at a fair. Oh, I heard you speak at this and I was there. It goes a much longer way than just submitting that resume. So think about that. I think it's the answer. I think it is the key. Relationships, networking, what we're doing right now. That's the way to go. Yeah.
Mhm. So thank you both for your answers. As a reminder, if you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A section. We do have another question here is, my question is how to make sure we are talking to the right person to get a higher chance of getting a referral.
I would say there's no right answer. There is no right person, at least not for us. Our entry level role, I get a referral, I call that person, right? You could be with a company for 1 week and 1 week employee sends me a referral, then I'll reach out to them. So there is no right person. You just want to know someone there. Honestly, anyone to get your foot in the door. You want to know someone there and you want to know a little bit about the position. You want to know a little bit about them and their journey. But there's really no right person, because the right person would be like my regional vice president, but you're most likely not going to be talking to her. So I would say there's no specific person. You just want to at least get know this person's journey with the company. Why do they like working there? Why would you like to join the company? But I would say there's no right person.
No right person, but the right environment, the right organization for you, and just beginning that process, whoever that person is. It could be the secretary, it could be the assistant manager, but you know that your foot is beginning to get in the door. Energy starts to form around that, and if they're not the exact person that's going to hire you, they can refer you, right? They can connect you. They can say, hey, I think you need to talk to so and so, or email so and so. So yeah, it definitely doesn't matter the person, because once the person is in the environment in the organization you're interested in, you've got the ball rolling, and it's only a matter of time before the person that does the hiring for you will know who you are, will know your skill set, will know your value. And yeah, so you're on the right path either way. What you do need to do is get connected and network within the field that you're interested in, right? And that's the path to go.
Thank you both. Our last question we have here is how can students connect with you after this presentation?
I could leave again on LinkedIn, on Handshake. I can leave my email in the chat. And I think that would be probably the best way. Again, if you do reach out, definitely reference, right, Inside Scoop that you attended this. But yeah, honestly, just simple email for me works good.
Yeah, and I'm going to share my interest form with everyone, and it'll just give me your contact info, and we can follow up anytime that you want to follow up.
Awesome. So Karen's email is in the chat if anyone is interested in connecting with her. And then Randall's interest form is also in the chat as well. And then thank you, Liz, for also putting the interest form as well. Um, well, if there are any more questions, we'll wrap it up. Thank you again to Randall and Karen for joining today's Inside Scoop on networking tips for recruiters. And then thank you to everyone who attended today's presentation, today's panel. Really appreciate your time and thank you again for attending.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.